Hi everyone, it's Lisa from A Simple Season. When it comes to making the dry goods in our pantry last as long as possible, there's a few ways that we can use to achieve that. And one of them is by using something called an oxygen absorber. If we haven't met yet, my name is Lisa. My family is from the Calabria region of Italy, and my channel is mostly about food, shopping for it, cooking it, storing it, preserving it, and serving it to others. A number of community members wanted to know more about how to make their dry goods last longer on the shelf in their pantry. So today we are going to talk about the use of oxygen absorbers, what they are, how they work, how to use them, and most importantly, how not to use them. So let's get started. A number of our community members had some questions about what oxygen absorbers are and how to use them. So essentially, an oxygen absorber is this little packet and it's filled with iron powder. And this little packet is totally sealed up and it's completely safe to put with your edible items. And how they work is when you take them out of the package, they come in a sealed up package like this. If you order, say, like 20 or 60 of them, they usually come in a package of multiples. You take them out of the package and they'll start to warm up a little bit like a hand warmer. And you can put it in with your dry goods and seal it up, and it'll suck all of the air out of the container and preserve your food. And when air is eliminated out of your dry goods in your pantry, it increases the shelf life of your dry goods exponentially. So you can see I have an oxygen absorber packet in this jar of oats. And what I really love about them is they can be really helpful for people who want to store whole food ingredients in their pantry and make them last longer. Because processed foods have a lot of additives, and most prepackaged foods have a lot of preservatives in them. So with oxygen absorbers, you can choose more natural food items and keep them around for longer. The other great thing about oxygen absorbers is it prevents any bugs or mold from getting into your product, because neither of those two things can survive in an oxygen-free environment. And it also slows down the degradation of your food, thereby enabling your dry goods to stay fresher for a much longer period of time. So for the most part, oxygen absorbers are super easy to use. There's just a couple of things that you need to remember. What you want to do is get all of your jars ready to go, because as soon as you open up this package, they will start to absorb oxygen. So you want to be able to work quickly with everything ready. So make sure all of your jars are filled, you have the lids ready, everything is all lined up. So these jars over here already have oxygen absorbers in them, but if I were filling them, I would take all the lids off, make sure that everything was all set to go. Then you open up the package and take out the oxygen absorbers you're going to be using. And what you want to do is just feel them first. They should feel nice and soft and powdery. That's how you know they're still good. If they feel hard and crumbly, the oxygen has been spent and they won't do the job they're supposed to do. So just quickly handle them, make sure they feel nice and powdery, and then go ahead and put them in your jars. The only other thing to remember is the size. They come in different sizes depending on the size of the container that you're going to be using. So a good rule of thumb is 100 cc's per quart. So right here I have a quart-sized jar. One of these little packets is 100 cc's. So that's what I would put inside the jar. This one here is a 2-quart jar. So in this jar, I would need to put 2 100 cc oxygen absorbers. If I have a gallon jar like this, you want to be using 300 to 400 cc's. It's okay to not get it perfect. Like if you're overshooting, if I were to put 300 cc's in here, that's just fine. You just don't want to go under the minimum. So 100 cc's per quart is usually a good rule of thumb. If you have a 5-gallon bucket or a 5-gallon Mylar bag, you want to be using 2,000 cc's, maybe 2,500, just to make sure that everything gets absorbed properly. So now all you do is you take your oxygen absorbers, put them in, seal up your jar, and you're good to go. That's it. And it'll take, I would say, anywhere between 4 and 12 hours for everything to seal. And now that will work perfectly. It will enable your dry goods to last much, much longer. The next thing you should have right beside you is an empty mason jar to hold any leftover packets that you don't use. So as soon as you're done sealing up your jars, just take your leftover packets and put them in the mason jar and seal it up. That way, the next time you want to preserve any other dry goods, they're ready to go and you can use them. Don't leave any unused packets in the plastic like this because they will just start absorbing oxygen and then they'll be spent and they won't be any good. Now there are a few food items where the use of oxygen absorbers is not recommended, and some of those things are jerky, powdered eggs, brown rice, and granola. So in the case of brown rice and granola, those things contain oils in them, so they just tend to not preserve well over a longer period of time. And in the case of jerky and powdered eggs, you run the risk of botulism because those types of foods in an oxygen-free environment can promote the growth of that particular thing. So it's wise not to use it for those items. And there also are a few more that I'm going to show you. The other things I wouldn't use oxygen absorbers with are things like seeds, nuts, and dried fruit. And the reason is you've got oils in the nuts and seeds, which again don't preserve well, and then you've got moisture with the dried fruits. And again, you don't want to be having moisture in an oxygen-free environment because that can expose it to botulism. And don't use oxygen absorbers with baking soda, baking powder, or pancake mix, because these two items in particular, you can run the risk of them exploding in an oxygen-free environment. And pancake mix, of course, usually contains either one or both of these ingredients, so you run the risk of that happening with the pancake mix as well. And don't use oxygen absorbers with sugar and salt because you will get a brick. When you're storing sugar and salt, don't store them in any kind of glass container. Put them in plastic. You don't need to do anything to them. They're just fine like that. And the reason why I say store them in plastic is because if the sugar or the salt hardens up, you can at least cut through the plastic to get to it. You can't do that with a glass jar without breaking it. So just store it in a plastic container with a good lid and you should be fine. Oxygen absorbers are fantastic and they work really well for some food ingredients. So here's an example of some of the things that you can use them for. Ideally, you want dry goods that are 10% moisture or less. So things like oats, cornmeal, pasta, white rice, and popcorn kernels. You can also do other grains like buckwheat or quinoa or whole grain, steel cut oats. That type of stuff works really well with oxygen absorbers and will extend the life of your dry goods. So just to give you an example of what that would be, if this package of oats that has the oxygen absorber in here, I can expect this package of oats to stay fresh for upwards of 10 to 15 years. Some people say up to 40 years with rice. I don't know if I would go that far with it, but 10, 15 years, you are fine. Same with cornmeal, pasta, popcorn. Any of those types of grains are perfect to use with oxygen absorbers, and they are a great way to extend the life of your dry goods. So if you find something on sale and you want to put it away, because I know some of the stuff I've put away I bought a couple of years ago and the price has doubled now, and I'm really glad that I have put these away with the oxygen absorber so that they're ready to use when I'm ready for them. And as far as containers go, you can use glass jars, which is my favorite, or you can use Mylar bags like this one. And you want to get ones that are at least 4.5 or 5 millimeters thick. And they work just pretty much the same way. You just fill it with your rice or pasta or whatever it is you want to put in there. Put in your oxygen absorbers for the sides of the bag that you have, and then you just seal up the opening with a hair straightener. That's usually what I do, and that's it. You're good to go. Now, of course, using oxygen absorbers is just one part of the equation in making your dry goods last longer. You also need a dark place, ideally a cupboard or a closet that is away from sunlight. A basement can work as well, as long as it doesn't get too damp and you're not storing things directly on the concrete. Just put down maybe a few layers of cardboard if you are storing things in a basement, so nothing is just right on the concrete floor. Also, temperature is a factor. Ideally, you want to have a place that gets between 40 degrees and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just perfect for storing your dry goods and any of your pantry ingredients for that matter. You want to be able to avoid temperatures upwards of 85 to 90 degrees. Because that will make your food degrade much more quickly. And also moisture. You want a place that's dry and free of condensation. So all of these things together should make your pantry goods last a long, long time. So hopefully you found this helpful, and boop the like button if you did. So take care everyone, and we'll catch you in the next one.